Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. 2021 starts in a really exciting way for WoW, our WoW Live events in collaboration with the University of Essex Baby Lab. Today we have one of our most favorite guests, Teresa Farroni. She is connecting from Italy, where she's now a professor at University of Padua. She's been working at the CBCD at Birkbeck for a very long time in the past, and that's our connection as well. So welcome, Teresa.
Welcome, thank you. Welcome to see you in my house. So that is the welcome.
Yeah, thank you for letting us in. This is a very special plus of this very strange time that we're living, where we are all separated, but we get to peek into each other's houses, and it becomes much more intimate. Whatever I said. So thank you for letting us in. So today, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come and talk about virtual realities and about, in general, all that has to do with screens and all this world that, as parents, we tend to have a very hate-love relationship with it, because it scares us, and our first reaction is always to say, oh, no, not my child. And on the other side, if we are very honest, we all know how handy they come in when we need a babysitter, and especially during these days. So thank you so much for coming and for helping us think about these topics in an informed and intelligent and conscious way. So would you like to tell us a little bit about why you moved into this field?
Yeah, okay. It's interesting because my expertise in a social brain development. Okay, so that seems like to be a completely different story. But because of that, I started to work on the autism topics in general. Okay, so more in the atypical development. Recognizing that some limits on this atypical development is related to the self before even related to the others. Okay, so this relation between their self and what's the stimulations around them is. And so I was starting to think, how can we really focus on that things, but on the same way making stimulations, that's what I was looking for, that were interesting to them. Okay, so they were happy to do, or really not working on their problems directly, but taking what they like the most, so that we can go through that door and enter in. So that was just a starting point. And I had some colleagues that were very, very good in programming. And so we were sharing our interest in these things. And so we started to recognize that there are, for example, the virtual reality visors, stimulations in that direction. That was really a great thing. Because in that case, that the children, the child, are actually able to medazimate, okay, to be inside the action without being. So working more in the visual imagery environment instead of the real environment. And we discover, but really just playing, that over there, the kids were able to do many, many things, okay? So we discovered that using technology could have been a sort of a really a tool to enter into these kids, okay? And that not just with a typical development, even the typical development, okay? So they enjoy to be there. They enjoy to interact with these tools. And we make some sort of also indirect aspect, which is they are pressing the keys, they are discovering what to do, interacting with these technologies. And so they are also happy because they are the protagonists, okay? So it's some sort of self-esteem of what they are able to do, okay? So that's why we get into this kind of environment.
So in a way, technology becomes like a superpower to do what we always want to do when we raise children, right? Typically or atypically developing, which is trying to work with their strengths and empower them to drive their own development but at the same time we want them to drive, but we know that there are things that they will need to know if they want to cope in our society. And so I guess this is something that a parent tries spontaneously to do every day. It's definitely something that at BabyBrains we really try to do more consciously and do a lot of. But it's amazing to see that technology is not only that scary thing. And maybe we can have a little talk about that as well in a second, about actually the negative sides as well. But then it's fantastic to see that if it's used well, it's actually a really powerful tool to open a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah. Also, the questions that we had when we started is where is the participant when is inside this real environment, or when you interact with the computer, okay, when you watch a movie, where are you, so are you inside there? So what the feeling of yourself while you are interacting with these things, okay? So that is interesting because it's what we call the proprioception, which is a big word, but the proprioception is the idea, the knowing about ourself in a space, okay? So I'm sitting here, and if I lose that control, then the technology is taking over me, So it's important to understand that between you and the technology, there is a space, and it's important that both the educators and also parents have to control that, okay? So where is the baby when he's watching something, okay? So that is an interesting thing, to use the technology in a good way, okay? And that's why I think that these tools are also able for us to work on a memory or an attention, stimulating babies to really understand what their limitations are, but in a funny way, okay, in an interesting way. So that is
So the magic basically happens when we begin to use the technology actively. And consciously, knowing what we want out of that, basically. Although there is a playful element that I really like that you described, just discovering that reality can teach us a lot, but there needs to be an intention behind it, an intention to progress, to learn. Because on the other side, when technology is used more passively, you were mentioning some more negative effects that it can have on the children.
Yeah, just recently, actually, one of these researchers coming from the Birbeck by Tim Smith, and what he did an interesting studies, because it was a longitudinal studies with the infants starting from the 11, I think, months up to 3 years old, and what he discovered. So he selected babies that were using a lot of the tablet, and babies that were not using the tablet, okay, and measuring their activation and orientation of attention. What they discovered is that apparently the babies that use the most the tablet are the ones that are more distractible, okay. So it's interesting because these tools are also doing, if you're not using that in a good way, let's say, is that babies are learning how to move their attentions, but too much, okay? So not to focus on one thing, but distracting by continuous stimulations. Okay? And another studies that comes from Italy, actually, from the University of Milan, what they were discovering is that the kids that are actually in the high level schools, the good schools, are basically the one, or most of them are the one that didn't use the mobile before the 11 years old. Okay, so the parents didn't actually give this tool to the kids. Okay, so is the idea that these tools are important. If you don't leave the babies, and the child in this case, to use them in the way that they want. There are also brain aspects, because these, if you give this mobile, quite often you see the moms with very little babies, a few months, that just give the mobile to the baby. Okay, so why do you do that? Okay, because that is interfering with the brain development, and there are many studies that are showing that. So it's a bad thing if you just do not pay attention anymore to them. Okay, so the tools, this mobile, tablets, and whatever, are bad if you don't think that they are bad anymore. Okay, so like if it's a habit, it's becoming a habit, and that is wrong. Okay, so that's just what I think that parents should do.
Because for children, they are they attract attention because of all of the luminosity, the movements, all of these elements, and then this really takes away time from the important brain development that the baby, talking about newborns and the first year, let's think, like at that point, they probably need, not only the phone does something to the brain, but it also takes away time of social interaction, right? Exactly. And that's probably where the child learns most, in the relationship with people.
For sure.
Yeah. So this is, it's really interesting, because the way you are using technology is really actually to empower children where they can't go, but so that then they can be able to interact with our society better, in a way, in a way that's more effective for them, I guess.
Yeah, but on the other side, going back to the good aspects, there are studies that are showing that if you study history, for example, okay, and if you study history in a book, or you study history and on the monitor, or you study history through the virtual reality, okay, so what happened is that with the virtual reality, you have a much better recall of the events, okay, so your memory is increased in that sense, okay, you remember more. Why? Because in that immersive reality, you are putting yourself, is like if you are a protagonist in what you're studying. So this is a good tool for teachers, okay, so you can use that to put the children into the, I don't know, see the Tutankhamen place, okay, the Egyptian, the or whatever you want, okay, that you are doing. So you are, so the environment is including you, and that is good, because this is something that when you read in a book, either you do that in the imaginations, okay, but it's quite hard if you don't have the situation to link to that place, okay. So if you talk about Egyptian activity with the babies of 1 year, okay, maybe he doesn't know what you're talking about, but if you see it, if you put them into that situation, they can start to learn more, okay. So that's what I'm saying. So memory, attention, if you can help them to focus in one thing, okay, so even babies that are very distractible, so can learn if you can teach them how to do that, okay. So this interaction is important.
Yeah, it makes me think about, I quite like history, but one thing I really enjoy is, for example, the novels of Umberto Eco, or, The Name of the Rose, these kind of things that make you experience what was going on there. Mm-hmm. And then, so I can totally relate to this difference between reading a history book and having the feeling of having been there, Reading an Umberto Eco book, it takes a long time. And also, you need to want it, you need to have the determination, while with the virtual realities, we can kind of recreate that experience relatively easily, I guess. I don't know, like you were talking about your Nuyeve lab that you have there in Italy, which sounds like I want to come and visit.
It's more than a lab. I call that gym because there are kids with typical and atypical development. They come. It's not really a research environment, but it's from where we took our ideas for doing research later, and they come and we make that. Basically is an empty room. But with cameras, with a piano that is not used as a piano, but just a place where the the children can interact, okay, and present something in the environment. Or we are talking about also autistic population where they come with a very stereotypical action. Okay, so for example, there was one. I'll give you some example because it's a crazy lab. So there was one kid that was used to switch on and off the light, okay, all the time, and that's in a very stereotypical way, and the mom was really furious. I can't. I'm really all the lamp, the bomb are just. Destroy everything in the house, persisting with this action. And so we did one funny thing. So every time he came in the room, this switch on and off, instead of opening and turning on the light, it was turning a movie that he was in love with. Okay, so he was just looking at that like, oh my God. So he was really at the beginning angry, but then he liked the movie, so he forgot about this switch on and off. Okay, so the day after, when he came back, he came in and he was watching the actual monitor. He was not even thinking about this on and off, or switching this. So he was really changing his ideas about something. So these action was not used anymore. So this interaction with the environment is something new to them. Or watching the other guy was watching always the Minions movie. Okay, so always he really was in love, and so we started to present the movie because he liked that. But in the same time, within the movie, we put himself. So there was a camera, there was a recording, and at the same time his body, and this guy was inside the minion, between the other minions. Okay, so it was really so happy, and he started to interact with the minions instead of just a passing view. So we are trying to present or stimulations and things in order to put them into the situation, being actor, actively creating stimulation themselves and reproducing. Most of them, they hate to see themselves on the mirror. Okay, the moms used to say, they don't like to see it. They get crazy if they see their face. But seeing their face in a movie is a completely different story. Okay, because they start to be friendly with themselves. They like that. Okay. Or they like to interact even verbally with that. Okay, so they start to communicate with. So it's creating a very fantastic but interactive way, and that is just the technologies that allows you to do that. Okay, so that's why I really press that technology is a very good tool for us.
Yeah, it's almost a way to get to know yourself. We think about the technology, the screens, and the virtual realities as a way of forgetting about ourselves and escaping to somewhere else. But in a way, the way you're describing it used, it's more you use it to get to know yourself better in a way. So it's incredibly empowering, and I don't know, it just opens a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, we don't have to forget that it's all about yourself and the others. The others are related to yourself. So what the baby has to do during his development is to know that it exists. Okay, so that he has something to do into the environment, and not just to be passive. Okay? Even Piaget was saying that. So a very old psychologist. You learn only if you are constructing your knowledge with the environment. Annette Carmelo-Smith, which is it was a great researcher in these things. So she said, as I maybe said also the other time, the most difficult things that the babies has to do is to learn how to learn. Okay, so we have the responsibility to get and help them to learn and to learn how to learn. And that is important, okay? So either we understand how our mechanism, how these mechanisms, cognitive mechanism works, we don't have any possibility to help them, okay? Not just say, don't use the mobile, or you don't even know what the mobile can do, you know? So we have this strong responsibility, even as a community, even as a researcher, to tell parents what exactly means, you know, working with these things.
Absolutely. This is something where science, like academia, the researcher, can really help us parents understand how to move, because it's the potentials is huge and the dangers are quite real as well. And so, and then our children are growing up in a world that's completely different from the one where we grew up. So there is definitely some education that us as parents we need to get. And it's probably never too early to begin. My children are, the eldest is 9 now, and the youngest is 6. And it's like, I need to hurry up. I don't know, you know, like they are asking questions, they want to do things. And of course, there's huge peer pressure. And so the last thing you want is your child to be, you know, bullied because of some, not having some technology. But at the same time, you need to know what's happening there. And in some cases, it can be really, really positive things. And also, I guess, as users, if we are informed, we can ask for things that are good for us, right? So then the product will come if we know what the good things are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important thing. Even with toys, even with things that we buy, I mean, for them, that is really, really, really important. So even a book is great. There's nothing wrong with a book, actually, but also because of the imagination. But at the same time, the book is more passive somehow, you know. So everything has its strength, and we need to use all the things that we have. So the progress that we have is an important thing to take into consideration. We cannot forget that. So book can be included and add to that other things. So that's why I'm positively oriented to these digital things. But still including the action. So we watching a movie is wrong if it makes the children to sit there and not move, okay? But if you can watch a movie and meanwhile, for example, we make kids to go on the bike, okay? So they are biking on the Everest through the visual yeah, and we have a bike, you know, so they are actually going, okay? So it's not just passively seeing, okay, but it's also doing things. And so if they go with the bike, then they can go around. If they stop, they just stop. Okay, so is a way to interact actively, not passively, okay? So that is why I think that, for example, the virtual reality is helping in this direction. And I think that the environment around is taking advantage of this technology. If you think also the augmented reality is, which is this Q code that you now see all over, okay? So with your mobile, you just impose your mobile and automatically you see things on there. So in the same way, you can create things and interact, okay? So a book with the Q code is an adding value, okay? So that is what I think has to be interesting, okay? So for parents to know that the environment is also changing around us, and we have to see why and understand how to use that. That's it.
Yeah, and as everything in parenting, like maybe the road is unknown, And but there is a huge potential there, and there are dangers there. But yeah, let's not be scared and focus. Let's be aware of the danger, but then especially let's focus on the potential and try to make the most out of it.
Yeah, I think that you shouldn't also make the wrong consideration that I usually. So my kids are very good with technology; they are better than me, and so just leave them to all this technology, and you just stay there thinking that you are old. I am old, but still, my technology, my kids are always kidding and say, "Mommy, you don't know how to use it." That's not true, I know more. But I think so. Be competitive with them, okay? Play with these things. Play with them. No, don't leave that your children just because they are the new generation, of this technology, and you are not. It's not true. Just put yourself aside and trying to play with this. I remember one day, one morning, I woke up and I was really, really tired. And my son was asking me, "Mommy, oh, my dear, Mommy, you didn't sleep?" "No, I didn't." I said, "Well, why? You have to work a lot." And I say, "No, you know what? I was playing with I can't remember video games that I had on my mobile, and I couldn't stop. Okay, so I went on from 8 o'clock in the evening up to 3 in the night to play with these things." And he was looking at me and said, "Mommy, are you doing?" No, I wanted to see what these things are doing to us, and I now know. And he was so happy because I was trying to understand that they are feeling, do what they do, and see how these things actually are attractive. Okay, and so I mean, I'm old enough. I knew that the day after I had to work, but I was trapped by that toys, by that things. And so that is important. Be with your children, understand the novelty and the good, bad things of this stuff.
Yeah, playfulness remains the key, and not killing that inner child in us, and just giving it a go and trying it out. And it doesn't always allow us to understand our kids better, but it's more fun for us as well, right? It makes the journey. It's much more fun to play a video game that they stay there and say, "Oh no, I'm old. I don't." I'm often, it's a shame. So, thank you so much for this very knowledgeable and informed, but at the same time, very human and kind of, conscious approach. I think it will inspire us. And I have a feeling we might want to call you back to talk more about this.
Whenever you want.
That would be fantastic. So thank you so much, Professor Teresa Farroni. It's been a great pleasure and honor to have you here. And hoping to talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.